The other point that needs to be emphasized with regard to this cultural, theological interaction between the Muslims coming from Arabia and the Muslims in the subcontinent is the fact that Islamic learning developed. It took off to the point that today, one of the major centers of learning of Islam today is in India. I mean, you go to Hyderabad, I mentioned Lucknow, Mansouriya, and all those places. These have been historically major centers of scholarship. You have thousands, hundreds of thousands of books on Islam written by people from that part of the world, to the point that you can be born in an Urdu culture and be well grounded in Islamic thought without really speaking Arabic. But you will know a like number of Quranic because it's now imbibed, what the linguists will call imbibiation. You imbibe these concepts and words in your language. And this is precisely what has happened in the West. There are many Westerners today who can tell you about Plato, they don't know Greek. You see what I'm saying? Because of this knowledge transfer that came. The same thing happened with Arabic. Arabic was imbibed by an elite group, and today if you go to in northern India, there are northern Indians who speak Arabic as well, maybe if not better than many Arabs. I'm talking about classical Arabic. So because of the long tradition of studying Fusha and going into the madrasa and learning that language. Now, that is not the way everybody in the society who is Muslim is in that category. But you do have these elite groups and families that go into many centuries who have been specializing in Quranic studies, and they become Hafiz al-Quran, they become Muhadithuns, and they can do tafsir, mufassiruns, and they become experts in kalam and all kinds of Islamic discipline. So this is one of the interesting things with regard to what Islam brought about, to the point that you have a number of these various ethnic groups that you find in India today who are part of this global Islamic Commonwealth. Of course, we can spend a lot of time, but I have to move on to the other areas to really talk about the expansion of Islam. Now, as Islam moved from Iraq, as I said, after the Battle of Qadisiyah and Muslim armies took over the Persian world, Islam now began to move into Central Asia to the point that groups we now call Tajiks, Tajikistan, Kyrgyzstan, Turkmenistan, Turkish groups, these groups were now beginning to be exposed to the point that they, like the Indians and the Africans, were now imbibing Islamic knowledge. I don't think many Muslims, especially Arabs, have not thought about this, that it was a Muslim from Bukhara who collected the most powerful set of hadiths. Why not an Arab from Mecca, from Medina, from Iraq, from Syria? It was someone from Bukhari. You see what I'm saying? Who collected the hadith. You see what I'm saying? But someone who is familiar with Jewish thought will tell you, how come now you have American Jews are experts? The leading scholars of Judaism are not in Israel, they're in America here. So the same thing happened with civilizations, that you will have sometimes the masters of the knowledge are not the homeboys. There's somebody out there. You see what I'm saying? Some people from other areas. And this is precisely what happened in Islamic history, that you now have people in Central Asia, in Bukhara, among the Uyghurs, the Kyrgyz, the Turkmens, the Kazakhs. All these different groups in Central Asia were gradually exposed to Islam. And Islam began, just like I was saying, in Africa and in India, you begin to see cities that existed in these areas were gradually Islamized, or new cities were created by Muslims. Tashkent becomes a major center of learning. Bukhara became a major center of learning. And of course, you go into the Uyghur area, which part of which are now very much controlled by the Chinese. You now begin to see Islam moving into that part of the eastern portion of Central Asia. And this is how Islam came into China.